Hello everyone, Storm11 here. Today we'll be talking about Tropical Storm Elsa today, where it's going to be going next, and where going to be the impacts on this system. Let's go and get started with the National Hurricane Center, and you can see here we do have Tropical Storm Elsa that has officially made landfall into parts of northwestern Cuba. Right now it has 60-mile-per-hour winds with a minimum central pressure of 1,007 millibars. Yeah, 1,007 millibars, and that's not like a typo or anything, that's the actual pressure. That's pretty high pressure for a tropical storm, especially a moderate stage tropical storm. A weak tropical storm is like 40-mile-per-hour winds. I mean, 1,007 millibars, that's what you'll typically see in a tropical depression. And we got this in a moderate tropical storm. That's been a little bit of an unusual type of thing with Elsa that has such a high pressure. And that's been kind of going on with the entire life cycle of its system. Even during a hurricane, it still had a pretty high pressure. So that's pretty interesting with that system. But it is still bringing a punch of 60-mile-per-hour winds in Cuba. Either way. So it's still a tropical storm either way, despite of having high pressure on it. It is moving northwest at 14 miles per hour. You'll start to see this lake start to turn a little bit more to the north, eventually turning to the northeast, which it will be making landfall somewhere in this part of Florida right here, probably in northwest central Florida is where it's going to be making landfall. Somewhere right in there, and eventually it's going to be moving into southern Georgia, eventually for the Carolinas, and we're not 100% sure what's going to be going on from here. It may bring effects all the way up along the East Coast, possibly. So that's something we got to watch for, as well as the track up there. So not only the southeast could see impacts, but even for parts of the northeast could see impacts from Elsa as well, which is something we need to keep an eye on as well. So let's kind of check out here with tropical tidbits here. This is satellite imagery of Tropical Storm Elsa right now. Your low pressure system is somewhere right in here, but you can see here, there is a lot of convection with this system. Its outer bands is even off the screen. It is way up there into to parts of south central Florida, parts of the northern Bahamas. It's a large storm. I mean, from north to south, you could say this is a huge storm, but at least it ain't a major storm or anything like that. It is a tropical storm, and it's pretty big, say at least, on this storm. There's a couple things I want to mention on here. Number one, dry air. Look at all that dry air that's way out there to the west of parts of southern New Mexico there. Not New Mexico, the Gulf of Mexico. And another thing to mention here, check out these clouds right here. You got some clouds streaming north, and you got some clouds streaming a little bit more to the southwest. That is wind shear. You can see it all the way up into parts of Florida. With that type of wind shear, yeah, you could probably see an isolated tornado threat up there. But not only that, it could shear this thing apart, possibly. But right now, that's looking unlikely. That's only wind shear on the western and northern side of the system. Pretty much everywhere else right here, there's not much in the way of wind shear or anything. That's kind of the reason why the storm is huge. Some of its convection from Elsa is now way up north with that wind shear. Some of the convection is getting separated from Tropical Storm Elsa. So some of its remains is way up there, and it's continuing to move pretty far to the north from Elsa as right now. So that's a couple of issues that Tropical Storm Elsa will have to follow to go with. Number one, wind shear. Number two, is that dry air, which both of those things could uh, limit Elsa's power, to say the least, or not really strengthen this storm. So that's something we're going to watch for. Let's take a look at a couple other things. Let's take a look at the National Hurricane Center's outlook here. You can see here currently Elsa is on land in Cuba. Got tropical storm warnings down there, but you also do have tropical storm warnings from Key West here, all the way up into northwest central Florida right now. And you got a couple tropical storm watches right there as well. And these tropical storm warnings do go pretty far, decently inland as well, especially when we go a little bit further up north. But whenever it gets into parts of southeast of Georgia, it may die down into a tropical depression by 2 a.m. Thursday. But right now, the timing of landfall at this point is looking to be possibly in the morning hours of Wednesday. At least it won't be in the middle of the night, like it's been pretty common last year, where most of these landfalls was like in the middle of the night. This time, it's actually going to be in the morning. So it actually has some daylight out there. You can see it when it continues all the way up to parts of the Carolinas as well. And it may go offshore here to parts of the northwestern part of the Atlantic here. And you can see here that part of the cone does go into parts of the New England states as well. That means that center low pressure system could go on the farther end of the track cone here, or it could go further south, or maybe it kind of go in between here, which is kind of the main track right now. But don't really pay attention much to that mean there, because this center low pressure could go either on the northern side or the southern side. If it goes on the southern side, there may not be any effects along these coasts, except for the rip currents, of course. But you won't get much of the way of rain or wind. But if it does go along the coastline, it'll be a weaker system, but it'll also bring some rip currents, maybe a little bit of storm surge, and a decent amount of rain as well. So we need to watch for really pretty much almost the entire East Coast needs to watch this system, even for parts of this area right here of Florida. We'll be getting effects from Elsa, which some of those places are getting effects from Elsa right now, the time I'm making this video. Let's check out the tracks from the hurricane models here. You can see here, it's indicating that it will make landfall somewhere in the next 48 hours, somewhere in northwest central Florida. Goes through southeastern Georgia and then eventually for central South Carolina and east central North Carolina, and probably just go off the coast of the northeast United States. That's likely to be the track at this point for the hurricane models, and so far, I do give credit to hurricane models. The tracks of this thing, it's been doing a pretty good job with it. Well, it's not been doing a good job, it's the intensity. And you can see here, there is a couple of models that do keep it, that does strengthen a little bit over the Gulf of Mexico. And then when it makes landfall, it goes straight down into a tropical depression. Now ignore this model, this one, and even this one too. Ignore those models; those are outliers. Pay attention to the cluster of models right here, and kind of beyond that. And you can see here, whenever it kind of gets over the Atlantic, it may re-strengthen a little bit as well, possibly back into a tropical storm, which is something to watch for. But really beyond that, it may just be a low pressure system, just given with the characteristics. It may have strong winds of a tropical storm, but it won't really have those tropical characteristics with that. That's what we call a subtropical storm as well. Let's check out the Gfs Ensembles here. So this is his 12Z run. And you can see here, the mean is kind of going along the coastline. And you can see here, there's even several models that do keep it pretty decent inland. So there's still some uncertainties here. Is either if it's going to kind of just go along the coast, it will stay off the coast, or it will go more inland. There's still like decent amount of questions to be answered, and there is different solutions either way of where this thing could be going to. But we'll show you the European ensembles here. And you can see here now, this is a little bit different here. I haven't shown this before, but this bar down here, that's the strong wind. Those are the winds here. I believe surface-based winds, if I were to guess on that. But you can see here, those blue colors, that's, or at least light blue, that's tropical depression, but the dark blue will be kind of be more like strong tropical depression and sometimes a weak tropical storm. But those green and yellow colors, that's the tropical storm territory. And you can see here, here's a chunk of tropical storm solutions right here. And you can see how most models do keep it as a tropical depression throughout most of Georgia and the Carolinas. And then when it gets offshore, you get the majority of the models actually bring it to a tropical storm. Even a couple of them, 60 to 70 knots. That's close to a hurricane right there. But we're not expecting a hurricane up there. That's pretty unlikely at this point here. Much cooler waters up there, but there is going to be a cold front nearby as well. And with that cold front, and with that ridge here where it kind of goes in between, as that cold front gets closer, those upper level winds will kind of move a little bit faster, and that's where the system kind of moves a little faster to the northeast. So that won't really bring a whole lot of significant flooding issues, which is good news for parts of Carolinas. But they actually do need some rain as well. So let's check out the GFS model. Like I said earlier in the beginning of the video, let's kind of go on to where it is right now. You can see all that dry air on the western side. If it does get into the center of low pressure, then that might be a issue there for intensifying. If you get that dry air in there, it won't really intensify. But I think that's kind of unlikely at this point because look at all this moisture it's got, especially on the eastern side. It's got plenty of moisture to work with. So I don't think that dry air is really going to get into that system, but it's still possible. That can happen. I mean, Elsa has been a very unpredictable system. But then whenever it gets into the Gulf, some of that dry air does get a little bit closer to the western edge, but still, the eastern edge still seems to be the nasty side of the storm. Then you're going to start to see this thing kind of intensify pretty good here. You go from 1,005 millibars down to 999 millibars in 6 hours. That's like a millibar per hour there. So it does have a chance to intensify there, and whenever it gets kind of close to the coast there, it may die down a little bit before it actually makes landfall as well. And then you can kind of see how it goes from there. You can also see from this image here, here's a cold front right here, which is going to make this thing kind of shoot up into the northeastern United States as well. And like I said about the wind shear on this storm system, it even shows it on here too. Look at that wind shear on the western side, which is kind of misplacing some of its convection to a little bit further to the northeast here. That's why it's such a large storm, is because we got some of that wind shear that's going on there. And you can see how it continues to move to the northeast. There is a little bit of wind shear it'll be going into that might kind of halt intensification a little bit on the storm system. But then again, this is kind of a pretty unpredictable system right now. Actually, it has been a pretty unpredictable system over the past couple of days with this system. So this has been a very unpredictable system, and I expect that to kind of continue, even though it's going to be over the Gulf of Mexico, where you do have warmer waters and ocean heat content, but you still got a little bit dry air and some wind shear that can really mess up the system here with intensification as well. So it's definitely something we need to keep an eye on of as well over the next several hours here. Let's kind of check out the Spc Outlook here because there is going to be a tornado threat with this system here. So this is for the rest of today. You got that marginal risk for this pretty much for the southern half of Florida. You also got that slight risk for parts of the high plains and a couple marginal risks up north. Then you want to get on to day 2. You got that slight risk for the southern half of Florida again. You also got another slight risk for severe weather for parts of the northeastern United States. That's where those people might be able to see possibly a couple cluster thunderstorms that could produce damaging winds. But besides that, down in Florida, the primary threat down there is going to be a few tornadoes as well. Then on day 3, you got that marginal risk up into the northeastern United States as well. So that tornado threat is going to be there for sure on this system. So let's take a look at the Tropical System Impact Index here. You can see here, I do have a level 2 out of 5 across most of Florida here. Really, the primary threats is really there. Tornadoes, you'll have some heavy rainfall. We gotta watch for this area here for the chance of that heavy rainfall as well. There could be some isolated spots of 5 inches of rain, maybe 6 inches of rain, especially around the Naples area, maybe getting up to close to Tampa. But let me kind of put this through here, which areas has the primary threat here. So really, pretty much this entire yellow zone here, pretty much there will be the threat of tornadoes about everybody in the level 2. But kind of along this area, right in here, pretty much like west of this line here, you guys' primary threat is going to be the tropical storm winds. And there'll also be the chance for that heavy rain as well. Everybody will get involved with this heavy rain and potential for some flooding. Uh, but pretty much your tropical storm winds, mainly your tropical storm winds will be kind of like on the western half of this 2 zone here. Meanwhile, everybody else will have the chance for a few tornadoes and heavy rainfall, which could lead to some flooding. Then you got this level 1 that does go all the way up into really anywhere from the panhandle of Florida for southeastern Georgia, and then you got the eastern half of the Carolinas up into southeastern Virginia. Don't be too surprised if this does get expanded up along the coastline here. Again, this is for the next 5 days here, and we do have uncertainties up here for right now, so I'm not really comfortable with issuing a 1 out of 5 up there just yet. I want to wait over the next couple of days. Probably when it makes landfall here, we'll probably have a better idea of where it's going to be going up there, which is going to be in about next 2 days here as well. And let me show you guys the legend there. So for level 1, minor impacts, that's 1 to 4 inches of rain, tropical pressure winds, and 2% chance of tornadoes. In that level 2, 4 to 8 inches of rain, tropical storm winds. Again, not everybody's going to get tropical storm winds with Tropical Storm Elsa that's in that level 2. But most people will be in that 5% chance, and there'll be some people in that 4 to 8 inch range. I mean, to get to this level here, it doesn't have to be all 3 of them. It can be 1 of them, which is some of those places does have 1 of them, and that's the tornado threat for the eastern side of the state as well. I do not expect to upgrade to level 3 unless it rapidly intensifies to a hurricane or something like that. That's really the only time it's going to be upgraded to a level 3. I don't think there's not going to be much of any people getting over 8 inches of rain, and we'll see if the SPC, if it decides to upgrade 10%, which I have some doubts on that, but you never know what SPC will issue on this storm system. Still something to watch here. But here's my Tropical Storm Elsa strength probabilities. Again, 100% chance for a tropical depression, tropical storm. I've given it a pretty low end 30%, just given the fact we do have pretty warm Gulf of Mexico waters and also plenty of ocean heat content, but with some of the uncertainty with some of that dry air, wind shear to work with. If it does rapidly intensify, it may have a chance of getting to a low end category 1, but right now it's unlikely for right now. But I'm still giving it a low end 30% chance of reaching for a category 1. But anyways, guys, that's all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like this video, hit the like button. If you really do like my channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, you put the comment section down below. I'll answer you guys questions, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.